Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to use OpenCore, a macOS bootloader, and I'll be showing this guide for the AMD laptop. This guide is unlike other guides as most of them focus on Intel laptops or Intel desktops, but this one will be focused on AMD laptops mainly. To start this guide, you will need at least a 4GB USB drive to install macOS. This is very similar to how we install Windows, as we need a USB drive for that as well. Go to the OpenCore website and download the OpenCore latest release package, and go ahead and unzip and open to the folder. And then go to the utilities and then Mac recovery, and then you'll see a couple files here, and then the Python file. Go ahead and open it in terminal and then run the Python file using these scripts below. All of these will be found on the website. For this video, I'll be showing you how to install Ventura, the latest version as of recording this. To install it, just copy the code from the website and then paste it into the terminal. Once you hit enter, you'll see it download directly from Apple servers. While that's downloading in the background, we can go ahead and set up our USB drive. Go ahead and plug in the USB drive and then format it entirely. When you format it, make sure the full capacity is selected and make sure it's in FAT32, and then everything else should be in default. You can rename it to USB so it's easier for us to identify when we're booting it later. Once it's formatted, go ahead and open the USB drive. To check whether it's done downloading, you'll see a message in the terminal that says image verification complete. Once it's done, copy the com.apple.recovery.boot folder and paste it directly into the root of the USB drive. Next, go to the x64 folder in the OpenCore folder and then copy the EFI folder. Once they're done copying, they should look like that. Then go to the EFI, OC, and then drivers folder. This is what helps macOS run on our Windows computer, as these drivers are not natively supported in macOS. We don't need most of these drivers as these are for legacy devices, so delete everything except the openruntime.efi. The next step will be to delete all the other optional items, as we don't need these for our AMD laptop. Next, we can go ahead and gather our files to boot our specific device. Now we'll be adding drivers and kexts that are specific to our AMD laptop. The HFS Plus driver is what reads macOS disks. As obviously this is not supported natively by our laptop, we need to download this and include this in our USB. Anything that has a .efi extension will go in the drivers folder. And the openruntime.efi is what we downloaded originally and should already be in our folder. For now, we should only have those two files. We can skip the legacy users part as our AMD laptop is pretty new and does not need anything. A kext is a kernel extension. This is essentially as if you're downloading a driver for your Ethernet controller or Wi-Fi card. So make sure you first download these required ones, and then place the zip folder in the kext folder for now. Then in the kext folder, go ahead and select only the .kext and remove the .zip file. For the virtual SMC, this has multiple plugins that are specific to our device. We can't copy all of them, as most of these are made for Intel laptops. For now, we will be using the SMC AMD processor, SMC Radeon GPU, since we have our iGPU for that, and we will also be using the battery manager, as we need that to monitor our battery level on our laptop. If you're doing this on a AMD desktop, do not use the battery manager kext. For Radeon sensor, use the latest version from NootInc rather than the archived version. On the releases tab, you'll see the latest release and you can download it from there. Some of these sensors are also optional. If you do not want to monitor your temperature on your GPU, this is not necessary to download. For our AMD laptop, all we would need is our SMC battery manager and the Radeon and AMD processor one, and obviously the virtual SMC. So from here, we can copy the ones that we need and delete the rest. I would recommend testing without the light sensor plugin, as if you do not know whether your laptop supports it or not, but I know it is supported on mine, so I went ahead and included it. And do the same for the rest. Copy the .kext folder and delete the .zip folder. Once that's done, you should see a bunch of folders with the .kext extension. Next, we're going to boot with this for graphics. This is essentially our graphics driver. However, you might have noticed that our AMD iGPU is not supported. But for now, when we're booting at first, we will be using whatever green for the recovery. Later on, at the end of the video, I'll show you how to use NootedRed, as this is what enables our AMD iGPU. But for now, go ahead and download the other driver. Once that's downloaded, the next one we'll be doing is Apple ALC. This is essentially the audio driver for our speakers and microphone. On AMD laptops, the microphone is not guaranteed to work, as a fix has not been completely made, but the speakers are guaranteed to work. Next is Ethernet. My AMD laptop does not have Ethernet, so I will be skipping this section. Now for USB. This part is very important, as this enables all the USB ports, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and other internal devices. First, download the USB toolbox Kext and unzip and paste it into your .kext folder. And make sure you do the same for all other kexts that we've downloaded. You'll see these two .kext folders, the default and the toolbox. Only copy the USB toolbox.kext. You'll see multiple in the Apple ALC as well, and only copy the Apple ALC.kext. Now we need to go to the USB toolbox tool. This is what maps all of our USB ports and will tell macOS where each of the USB ports on our computer is located. Make sure you run this program on the laptop that you will be installing macOS on. That part is very important, as it is specific to the laptop that it's running on. When you first run it, make sure you click D to discover ports. This will discover automatically all the ports that are on your computer. As you can see these different USB ports and internal ports as well, such as the Bluetooth and microphone and other items. Once that's loaded, go ahead and select to build, and then I recommend clicking A to select all, as this will prevent issues in the future. Once you see everything in green and selected, you can go ahead and hit K to build the map. Once it's there, you'll see a new utbmap.kext in the same folder. Go ahead and copy that and paste it into your kext folder. Next will be Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. For this, you will need to check the device manager for what type of Bluetooth card you have, but for AMD laptops, it most likely will be an Intel card. An Intel card is the most compatible with the latest versions of macOS on Ventura and Sonoma, so I recommend you follow these steps. First, start by only downloading this. This is what will help fix our Bluetooth. Here we only need the Bluetooth Fix Kext. We don't need the other ones for now, since we don't have a Broadcom card, but rather an Intel card. Go ahead and copy that and paste it into the Kext folder. Next, we will need Airport IT LWM. This is what enables our Intel Bluetooth card. From this folder, we don't need the Bluetooth injector, but only the patcher and the firmware. If you're booting an older version, such as Big Sur, rather than Ventura or Sonoma, then you would need the injector. But for us, we will not need it. So copy the patcher and firmware and paste it into the folder. Once again, make sure you delete the zip folder. Finally, for Wi-Fi, this is very dependent on the version of macOS that you're booting. I made a mistake by downloading the Sonoma version, but make sure you download the Ventura version for Wi-Fi to work whenever you boot up in the macOS recovery. This depends on the version of macOS that you're booting. You can always update to Sonoma afterwards, as we cannot download Sonoma directly from the recovery servers, so for now make sure you download the Ventura build, not the Sonoma one. Next, on the website, you can see that there are also patches for Broadcom cards. If your laptop happens to have a Airport Broadcom card, you can use those. For AMD specific, make sure you download the CPU power management. This is very important as this enables the low power states on our laptop and enables us to save battery while using macOS. Next, you will need the Apple MCE Reporter Disabler. This will allow our AMD CPU to boot properly. The rest of these we likely will not need. Now, this is a kext that isn't included on the website, but I will provide a builded version in the description. But this is a fix for specifically AMD laptops. If you're doing this on an AMD desktop, you will not need this. The latest releases are on the website there, and you can download them from there. Once again, make sure you go through all the other zip folders and unzip and paste them into the folder. Finally, for laptop input, this part is very important as this enables the trackpad and keyboard on our laptop. For this, I recommend going to a different website, the NootedRed website. This website focuses on the specifics for AMD laptops rather than the OpenCore one, which focuses on general hardware. Go to the kexts tab and then scroll down until you find the laptop input section. Here you can see the Voodoo PS2 and Voodoo I2C. I recommend downloading both of them as most AMD laptops have a combination of the two for keyboard and mouse. The touchpad is usually linked on I2C and the keyboard is usually on PS2. Here you can see all the different plugins. However, on AMD laptops, you likely have a I2C and I2C HID for the touchpad, and that worked flawlessly for mine. All the gestures and other features in macOS will be enabled on your touchpad if you use those. And then here you need the PS2 controller. That is just a single kext that will enable our keyboard. Once we're done with that, we can go back to the OpenCore website and download the rest of our kext. The rest of this website also includes a similar guide to the OpenCore one. As you can see, it shows very similar kexts. The last one that my laptop needs is brightness keys. Your laptop will likely need this as well. Go ahead and download that and paste it into the folder. Once we're done with that, we can move on to SSDTs. These are ACPI tables that essentially handle backlight control, power control, and other important functions of the laptop. So for macOS, obviously it's not natively supported, so we must patch these things, unlike in Windows where it works automatically. So go ahead and download this tool called SSDT Time. This will build the ACPI tables that macOS needs to read from to boot properly and run. This tool is an automated tool that will build these tables for us rather than us having to do it manually. Go ahead and run the ssdttime.bat, and once again, just like the USB tool, this needs to be run on the laptop that we will be installing on. This part is very important as it reads the parts of the laptop to fix these. So in the terminal window, these will be all the different types of fixes for our laptop to run properly. First, run dump dsdt, so this will be reading our system data and getting the information for all the fixes. So click P and hit enter, and then once it's loaded, we can go ahead and follow the directions on this website and then run the different fixes. So first select one and then use the default option C. If you see any warning, you can ignore it for now. Then follow the rest of the directions on screen. For this menu, you will see many different options. For this one, make sure you do 19 for AMD. Once we're done, we can go ahead and type Q to quit, and then we can go ahead and move on. In the results folder, go ahead and copy all of the .aml files. These will be the ones that we will copy into our USB. Make sure you do not select the dsdt.aml as we will not need that. At the end, you should have 4 to 5 files that we will be pasting. And make sure you paste this in the ACPI folder. Before moving on, we will need to copy over our config.plist file. And then select the patch merge and then select the config.plist in the USB. It should be in the EFI and then OC folder. If it's not there, you can copy it from the OpenCore resources folder and then paste it there. Once it's selected, go ahead and select 2 to patch with the fixes, and then once it's done, we can go ahead and hit enter. Now we can set up our config.plist. This essentially tells macOS what to expect when we're booting, and it ensures that all of our kexts and drivers load properly while we boot macOS. Here you can see the directions on how to copy the config.plist. If you do not already have it in the USB folder, you can follow those directions on the website. First, download ProperTree. This program will allow us to read the plist file and make changes to it. A normal text editor or VS Code will not be the best option for this, as many plist entries are very complicated. Next, we will also need Gen SM BIOS. This will enable iCloud services, but for the purposes of this video, I will not be showing it in this video. Go ahead and extract the ProperTree folder. And from here, run propertree.bat. Then open the config.plist folder from your EFI folder. Then you can go ahead and delete the warnings and then do OC clean snapshot of your OC folder. This will automatically add all of our entries within the kexts and drivers folder. Next, we will need to follow the directions on screen to make changes to our config.plist folder. We will be following the AMD desktop directions as it is the same for the AMD laptop and desktop. This guide will not officially show the directions for the AMD laptop, so watching this video should cover that. For this portion of the video, just follow the directions on screen. If you prefer to, you can always go to the website and follow the same directions manually, and you can skip to the timestamp on screen. This next part in the video is very important, as this is the kernel patches to run our AMD CPU properly. This will be the same steps for AMD desktop and laptop, but make sure you know the core count of your AMD CPU. This will make more sense as you go on to the video. Go ahead and open the patches.plist folder from the AMD patches that we just downloaded and copy those, and then paste it into the kernel section. Make sure that you already deleted the patch section from the old folder, and once it's there, you'll see the new patches there. Then on the website, you'll see that you need to replace these with the core count of your CPU. So for me, I have an AMD 5700U, which is an 8-core CPU, and this depends on the CPU that your computer has. You can find the number of cores your CPU has in Task Manager. Then follow the directions on screen to change the core count of your CPU. In every Replace tab, make sure you change the 4th number. This next part is platform info. This is what spoofs our type of MacBook or Mac to run macOS. I recommend using for your AMD laptop MacBook Pro 16,3. This is what usually works best. Now we can go ahead and boot the USB and install macOS. So first, before beginning, we must go into the BIOS of our system. This usually works by clicking F2 while our laptop is booting, and from here, make sure you first disable Secure Boot, and everything else should be good to go. Then go ahead and add a new boot entry. This will look different for each BIOS, so I will not be able to help for everyone, but this is my Dell laptop, and that is how you add a boot device. Then once it shows up, click the spacebar to have the USB show up. And then once it says USB external and then DMG, go ahead and hit enter, and you will see our USB start booting. Here, once you're in macOS recovery, we can go ahead and go to disk utility and format our drive. Make sure you back up any data on your Windows partition before doing this process. You can go ahead and name this whatever you want and leave everything else as default and click Erase. This could take a couple minutes depending on the speed of your drive. Once it's done, before we can reinstall, we must connect to Wi-Fi. If your Intel Wi-Fi card is detected properly and you use the Ventura Kext properly, we can go ahead and connect to the Wi-Fi. Go ahead and enter the password and then click Join. Once you have successfully connected, you will see the Wi-Fi symbol show up properly, and then we can go ahead and click Reinstall. And then follow the directions on screen for the rest of the reinstallation process. This could take a couple hours to install, but be patient. If your laptop hangs in any process of the installation, or while the macOS USB is booting, it stops working, always just power it down and retry. Now go ahead and just set up your Mac as normal, and as you can see, we don't have full graphics acceleration. This will be fixed by enabling our iGPU with the NootedRed Kext. So first, go ahead and just Google NootedRed, or also I'll have a link in the description for this. And from here, fork this repository, as we will need to be building the Kext using GitHub. Then go to GitHub Actions, and from here we can go ahead and enable the workflows. Now we can go ahead and run the workflow to create the Kext for us. This could take up to 5 minutes to finish running. Once it's done, you'll see it say Artifacts 1 at the top right, and then we can go ahead and download that artifact from here. If it doesn't show up at the bottom, go ahead and reload or just go back to the tab. Then download the artifacts.zip, and then in this you'll find 2 folders, and here you'll find the Kext that we need. Go ahead and copy that into your EFI folder, and then paste it into the Kext folder. Once you see the folder there, we can go ahead and add it using the config.plist. If you don't add it to the config.plist, it will not work. And also make sure you delete the old whatever green.kext, as we will not be using that anymore. And now, since we've already installed macOS, we can go ahead and delete the other folder and these other scripts. Then open proper tree to open the config.plist, and then we can add it from there. To add it, make sure you first open the config.plist, and then click File and then OC Snapshot. Do not click OC Clean Snapshot. Once it's done, we can go ahead and close it and eject the USB and put it into our laptop and reboot. Once you reboot the laptop, everything should be working pretty much fine. Here you can see our AMD CPU is shown in macOS and our Radeon graphics. The next step will be doing post install. This will be allowing our laptop to boot without the USB plugged in and directly from the laptop disk. This will be moving the EFI folder from our USB onto our laptop itself. Just follow the directions on screen for OpenCore post install and everything should be good to go. If you have any issues with your laptop not working, you can always follow this guide for troubleshooting. Here you can also see fixing iServices and other guides on how to help your Hackintosh run better. Once it's done, you can go ahead and select our drive, which is macOS, and then now you'll see that our EFI folder is now mounted. Now you can go to Finder and go to the EFI, and if you see a default folder here, you can go ahead and delete it. Once our EFI partition is empty, copy our EFI folder into the EFI partition. Once that's done, we can go ahead and eject our USB, as we will not be needing that anymore. Now we could follow the rest of the directions on the website for fixing and decluttering OpenCore. I recommend going to, if you have an issue with the battery status, you can always fix it here. Then I recommend going to cosmetics and then doing macOS decluttering. This will allow us to have a normal macOS boot rather than show all of the verbose and other items that are booting, and this will just show the macOS loading bar instead. This is all optional, as this will not affect the operation of the Hackintosh. Once again, do the same to run proper tree. We will need proper tree on macOS now as well. And go ahead and open the config.plist from our EFI partition now. Once that's open, go ahead and just follow the directions on screen or from the website. Once we're done, go ahead and save the config.plist, and now we're done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful.